Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Niall. And this week, Kyle, I honestly just, there's been this massive painting in the lobby of my apartment building for the past 2.5 weeks. I don't know where it came from. It's just leaning against another painting on the wall. And I think someone who's an artist moved in up above us, but I don't know why they left literally probably 5.5 foot tall painting just leaning in the hallway. And It's been there and I don't know why. And it's pretty cool. It's actually kind of sick.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
What is the painting of?
It's of a kind of farm field landscape, but there's a road and there's a car driving down the road, and then in the bottom third there's a cut-in panel of the car's grill and front side. So it has kind of a two-piece almost a comic panel on the bottom of it. It's cool looking. It's good shit.
Okay, that's cool. 2, is it haunted?
I honestly at this point I wouldn't be surprised. It's not intentionally spooky looking. It looks like something that would show up on an actual haunted show. You know how the Annabelle doll in reality is just a Raggedy Ann doll or whatever.
Yes,
not this fantastic thing. This is what an actual painting that would be haunted would look like. It wouldn't be the thing that's wouldn't look super creepy. It would look like this. That's kind of alluring in a way, but also mostly normal.
Okay.
It's cool. This literally is just a thing that has been on my mind for a week and a half now, because I saw it when I was doing laundry last time, and then we went to do laundry again, and it's still there, and it just is it's haunting me.
Yeah, who leaves a painting out in the
a big one?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Have you had any sort of interactions with your artistic neighbors?
I listened. They were moving in, and they were moving in is
they're
a loud
running in there
thing.
saying Vincent
They're
Van
not
Gogh. They're saying what's another artist?
I think I saw them hold it had having an easel desk bringing it up into their bringing.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure,
yeah. So that's where I got this supposition.
Craft, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Well, I do hope. Look, listeners, email us if you know the answer to Niall's question about the mystery painting.
Sometimes this isn't a thing that anyone but me can actually solve, and it's just the fact that I am anxious about trying to meet neighbors, because I'm bad at meeting people. So this is purely a mystery that there is an easy solution to. I just refuse to take that easy solution.
I do feel like there is a cascading effect potentially that would be a cascading Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm situation.
Yeah.
If you were to go out of your way to ask the neighbor about the painting.
Okay. That is actually one of the best ways to try to describe the way my anxiety feels.
Okay.
It feels like every action that I could take will result in an entire Curb Your Enthusiasm episode to unfurl from said action.
That's
you know?
Yeah, I could see that. Like, frankly, though, I'm gonna let you in on another little secret. You're also probably fine if you were to say, And here's the thing. We are right now discussing this on a podcast. There's a couple of problems here. You could already be in a Larry David situation where the upstairs neighbor listens to our show, and we didn't.
I think that might be my actual nightmare is someone that listens to the podcast. I hadn't even thought about this until right now. That thought had not crossed my mind. Sometimes I forget that people listen to this, No,
I do all the time. And then we get an email from somebody who says, your show is the highlight of my day. And I go, oh my God, I forgot you were listening.
Yeah.
I thought I was just talking into this.
I thought I was just editing and uploading it for no reason.
Yeah, I thought it was just you and me just kind of hanging out, which it is. But, God, yeah, I feel that. But yeah, here's the thing. I think you're also probably fine that, if you were to run into them, ask them like, hey, is that your painting? Because like, I thought you might be an artist or something, Yeah. But I do think though you increase your probability to put yourself in a Larry David situation if you go out of your way to knock on the door and say, "Hey, I was just wondering about this painting," because there's a little bit of a degree of weirdness to that, right? But I understand your curiosity. But Niall, speaking of works of art,
right?
We should probably talk about what we came here to talk about.
Yes, I mean, we do have an actual episode.
We could do the mystery of the forgotten hallway painting for an hour, probably. but
don't get me started.
But I do think we should talk about what we watched, which was an interesting choice for us to watch for. Well, I'll say it, the main feed. But I like that we're going to talk about it because let me just kick things off. That you know how Jules is really, really into Steve Albini right now?
Yes. I don't think we've mentioned that on the podcast yet.
Oh, okay. I thought she came on and said something about it.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. I think you're right. Yeah.
If not, and look, I get it. Steve Albini was great. His music's great. There's the
I've now gotten her into Fugazi.
Hell yes. I love that for both of you. And yeah, that album that came out after he passed away, I mean, I've listened to it like over a dozen times now, so I get it. But what I will say is you allowing me to talk about this on a mic with you ensured that we're here for like an hour and a half minimum.
Yeah.
Because I am not quite on the same level as Jules is with Albini, but like because Jules has her own, sort of like adoration for an artist, like ecosystem that she works inside of, and like it's a whole thing with her. I am similarly obsessed with Matt Johnson.
Look, this is a thing that I can attest to through the many years we lived together.
Yeah.
The amount that you would bring up the show Nirvana, the band, the show, which is fucking hilarious. This is not a dig at that show at all. It is truly worth your time and worth the level of obsession you have with it, Kyle. It just is fun. It's like you've been into this fucker
for a long time,
for a while. Yeah.
So let me give a little background. First of all, I should walk back that my obsession with Matt Johnson's stuff is the same as Jules because I don't have a sexual dimension for it yet. But I don't know. Should I say that? Would Jules give that the seal of approval?
Well, we'll see. See if that makes the edit.
No, I saw you make the mark. That's perfect. Yeah, just a little background here, like to explain why we're even talking about this, because I need it to be very clear that in I want to say 2019, not very long before, maybe late 2018, maybe, it was Garrett who came to me and told me about a little TV show called Nirvana, the Band, the Show. So Garrett got me into it and I became obsessed with it. and God, like, where do I even begin? So what we watched for this episode of the podcast is a mockumentary. It's not a real,
I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But the thing is, it also is, right? That's what makes it so cool.
Yeah, this is the best. Look, we're allowed to have our little gray areas with these shows. That is what this is. So I think this counts for this show, and that's why I gave it the go for the main feed.
No, I agree. And one of the things that attracts me to what Matt Johnson makes is the blending of reality and the fiction that the media is telling you. That is like, I'm very into that. And that's what this is like. So we watched a movie called Operation Avalanche. And it came out in 2016, and it is on this. What it is it is a quote unquote mockumentary about the agents, the CIA agents who become tasked with faking the moon landing.
Yes.
And I give a little spoiler here, but like Matt Johnson, the man who created this movie, does not believe that the moon landing was faked.
Yes.
But what this is all about is telling the story of like a person who would do that. Who would go out, who would like what's the story behind like you hear this conspiracy theory, right? And sometimes I think a very big question that goes unresolved in like, especially like fringe conspiracies is, well, who did this, right? Like they can like vaguely gesture at like NASA or a shadow government, but like this movie is about specifically, here's the like small crew of guys who faked the moon landing.
And how they did it.
And it's fucking great. And they even include the Stanley Kubrick connection, which is a series of really wild, hilarious scenes. So that's what this is about. But like at the root of it is like, this is a movie that's in line with Matt Johnson's oeuvre, like he is always doing this. So you've seen Nirvana, the band, the show.
Correct.
You've seen this movie now.
Yep.
And then you've seen Blackberry, which is like the least like that, but it still has the same elements. It sort of has the same feel.
It's his most, quote, commercial movie so far.
Which, according to him, he basically said, I made Blackberry so that I could then have the ability to make a Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. And that's not to discredit anything about the movie, because when I've gone and listened to him talk about that movie, and when he's done like some interviews alongside Jay Baruchel and Glenn Howerton, it sounds like they all kind of loved working on it, and Matt was still into the project, but it's like, he's also like, I will never do a product movie ever again. Which, he just wanted to get the wind under his wings, as it were, because he has this history here of making these low budget movies and TV that really bend reality and also bend the rules, bend legality.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It's better to ask forgiveness than permission, or hopefully never have to ask anything at all in terms of his filming. Yeah,
it's like, I stop me if I speak too much about like his overall stuff, because I know we're here to talk about Operation Avalanche, but like, if you've seen the like, and I'll say it, way more popular Eric Andre show, right? Mm-hmm. That show has Eric Andre going out and acting goofy in public to get reactions from people. And Nirvana, the band, the show, which is like this TV show about these two doofuses who are like mentally trapped in the 90s, go out and are trying to get this show and become this big famous band, and they're called Nirvana the band, and they haven't thought about the fact that there was a band called Nirvana, and
they're doing a like the whole kind of gimmick of it is like these guys are like lazy, but everything they do is like trying to be like a get rich quick scheme, but it's all about trying to get this band gig.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's such a small thing they're trying to do, goal. And they have these like ridiculous harebrained plans to make it happen.
It's
really good.
It's really wild. And so, but I guess what I want to point out is like you have the Eric Andre types where or like even like the Ali G show. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of other examples. But like you've seen
Jackass,
like, sure. But like they go out and they do stuff in front of people to be silly and get reactions. But what made Nirvana the band, the show, so special to me that I haven't really seen done elsewhere. Maybe it has, and somebody can correct me, but they incorporate the actual like narrative and plot and characters that they are developing for the show, and those characters go out into the real world and interact with it. And the natural reactions that they get and responses they get from people in the world are influence the story. And I think that's the coolest thing that is so cool. And incidentally, in so many cases, hilarious. Just so funny. And so oh, sorry.
It also it's all held together by the fact that Matt Johnson is like one of the better reactors that I've seen. He's like the center. Like he's one of those directors that is most of his projects have him at the center of it. And you can love that or hate that, but I think he's phenomenal, and I think he's a really interesting presence to watch on screen. In this movie, he's perfect. Like
he himself will like say in interviews that he doesn't think he's like a great actor. I think he's pretty damn good. I think the only thing that holds him back in a movie like this, where he is playing an American CIA agent, is he's just too Canadian.
This whole movie is like Canadian accents.
It's so Canadian. Great. It's great. And again, I don't hold that against him. It doesn't. I think it's mostly fine. But there is one time where like a character in this movie who is about to betray the group. Matt says to him, "All right, see ya, buddy." I'm like, that's too Canadian, my man. That's a little too Canadian, but that's okay. No, it really, and the other thing about this movie too is like a vast majority of it is improvisational. Like they don't really script much. They know what they're trying to do for the movie, but as I understand it, they don't really like write some epic screenplay for a movie like this or for the shows.
And I think it's interesting how having that as a method fits the kind of documentary feel of it. How everything's just like, it's not super clean,
Yeah.
In terms of like the pacing of conversations, and people stutter a little bit, and people like, it has those things that you have to like try to work into a script. It has its positives, its negatives, of course, but like for the tone of this movie and everything, it works really well. And I think it works for it being like, okay, is a mockumentary just any documentary that isn't factual? And is like staged, I guess.
I guess so. I always just, when I think of a mockumentary, I think of, oh God, I like
Spinal Tap. Like,
yeah, it's non-factual, but it's also like for laughs, right? Like,
yeah,
I usually think there's a comedic intent behind a mockumentary, which this movie and his first movie, The Dirties, are that. But the thing is, it's funny until it like very suddenly is not funny.
And it's not the normal, like that's the thing about about his thing with this whole, like, he merges. It's not like original to merge reality with, but like it's just, it feels weird to call this movie a mockumentary
Sure.
to me. And I don't really know why, because it is funny and it is a fake documentary. But it feels like that kind of misses the ambition of the movie a little bit, you know?
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. It does feel a little cheap to call something a mockumentary because, like, at the end of the day, this is just a really great movie. Is what it is. But the sort of framing of it as a documentary about a conspiracy to fake the moon landing, Niall, that's what lets us talk about it on this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and also, Niall, if you haven't seen The Dirties, I would say, I don't know if you know anything about that movie.
I don't.
So one of the other tendencies that I've picked up on him, because I also watched the web series, and he kind of has talked about this in some interviews about how, like, he used to kind of, you know, when it's him and his co-star Jay in Nirvana, the band, the show, a lot of the times they're trying to say something or do something fucked up or crazy to elicit the other person's response as well. And Matt, I know, had like a tendency to go dark with some of his stuff. So to tell you about, here's the thing. You've seen everything that has come since his like original web series and The Dirties. The Dirties, it was a Shudder exclusive when I watched it, which is bizarre. And what it is about, Niall, it's the same sort of tempo, the same style. It is a documentary being filmed by kids at a high school who are planning a school shooting.
Oh, Jesus.
And that movie is, here's the thing. It's another one of those things where, like, I feel like it's really trying to provoke a particular feeling because, you know, you hear that description and you think that is, how can you possibly make a movie like that and not have it be this fucked up, tasteless thing?
Yeah.
And while the movie is fucked up, I think because of his blending of reality and stuff, he manages to get across a very interesting message about, I don't want to spoil The Dirties. I think people should watch it if they're down to handle a movie about that. But it is dark. It is very dark.
I didn't know that's what that was about. All right.
That's what that's about.
Like, the poster makes it look like it's a bullying thing, which I guess it very well could be. Yeah.
It is basically the perspective of the kids who go through so much shit at school to the point where they, like, one of them, actually, it's the same two guys. It's Owen and Matt as the main characters again, at using their names. Matt Johnson, Owen Williams. And basically the sort of thread of it is that Matt is the one who is the unhinged kid who is provoked so much to the point where he's like, we're going to do a school shooting. And Owen, even up to the last second, is like not sure if he's joking. And it's really good. I would recommend it, but also I wouldn't, you know, if somebody's like, I don't want to watch a movie about a school shooting, I'd be like, that's totally fair.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, you're never gonna look. Sometimes you're not in the mood for Ichi the Killer.
Yeah.
And you want to watch something else. That's the thing that comes up whenever, like, Jules and I are trying to watch, like, just like pick a movie to watch.
Yeah.
I will always start with like a horror movie, and sometimes Jules is like, I'm not in the mood.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. But all that being said, before we like just dive specifically into Operation Avalanche, I just wanted to say Nirvana band, the show, The Dirties, everything that this guy has made, I love it and I recommend it to anybody.
Okay.
So
I guess that kind of gives you gives me an idea of how you feel about this movie. Because
I loved it.
We specifically haven't talked about this before.
I hadn't seen this before. I didn't realize. So if you want to watch it before we like dive into more of its content, it's free with ads on YouTube right now if you want to check it out. And that's how I watched it. And I'll just start right off. I really loved it. It was kind of like an extremely easy sell to me. I rewatched Blackberry the other day while I was working on some other stuff, and I was like, wow, this is just fantastic. And so I was like, why haven't I watched this? And I like went on YouTube, because I've been on a YouTube rabbit hole listening to Matt Johnson interviews, and it just turns out this was free on here. But I'm fascinated by how he views filmmaking, because
this
no, go ahead.
This movie
go ahead.
is very much kind of about like his love for film and filmmaking, and like the joys of making movies with people you like.
Yeah.
It's one of the, it's kind of cliche to say like, oh, this movie's about making movies. But some movies kind of are.
Yeah.
And
I'm one of those people who like, I don't really understand why people get really like weird about like, oh, a movie about making movies. Oh, like I don't understand the problem with that personally. I'm down. I like any movie. I like movies that tackle the like process of doing something creative. I do. And as a bonus, if they're doing all the things I just outlined about what I love about this guy's stuff, plus the other thing that like I think comes through in something like that is like you can sense the passion for the medium, and that is always something that when that comes through a movie for me, I soak it up. It's the same way I felt watching The People's Joker, where it was like this was so from every angle like this passion project, and I felt that, and I thought that was awesome.
I unfortunately am having to buy the Blu-ray to see it, because I missed the theatrical run.
There's a possibility. I saw her tweeting about maybe bringing it around again, but I don't. It was a pretty limited thing. But hey, I think you'll enjoy that. But Jesus, before I get too off track, so this is about Matt Johnson and Owen Williams, that's the actual actors' names. Who are a part of this like gifted program to bring to the CIA from like Harvard, and I forget, I think they're from Harvard or something, Ivy League schools. Yeah. And they're in the AV department of the CIA.
Yeah, the four people in this movie, the two leads and then the cameraman and sound guy, I guess. Make up at the beginning of the movie, it straight up says they make up the entirety of the CIA's AV department, which is low key one of the funniest lines in the movie.
Yes, it's really good, and the whole driving force behind them, and like one of the reasons that they the movie sort of tells you that they were chosen for this program with the CIA was because of their like ambition. They're very ambitious students. So the whole driving force of the film is that there is what was the name of the project that it was Project I keep forgetting the project name. Project the
one that they tried to get onto?
Yeah. At the very beginning, they're trying to get on this CIA project, and they're kind of rejected.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what it is. Because isn't it like an actual... I'm pretty sure it's an actual project.
I don't know if it was. Because like I actually went and looked up some of the things. Because like at one point, they mentioned a project called, I think, Operation Deep Red. And I went and looked that up, and I don't think it's real. But in the movie, it's one of the projects that the AV group worked on, which was the sort of investigation into filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. And they called it Operation Deep Red. And I was
trying to figure out if Deep Red was an Argento reference through the whole thing.
It very well could be. I mean, references get like, you watch Nirvana, the band, the show, and their walls are covered in Criterion posters. And apparently they have some sort of deal where Criterion Collection will just send them any poster that they want. So they just have walls covered in. So I'm sure that there's like references and stuff. I mean,
there's a bunch of like Stanley Kubrick posters in the background, and there's like Anatomy of a Murder, and this movie has a bunch of like movie posters in the background for people that like to look at that shit.
Yeah, but regardless, they're trying to get in on this operation to like basically sniff out a mole, and well, so specifically at NASA, right? So
yes,
and the way that they sort of prove themselves as capable for this particular mission is they like covertly film the director above them who's like managing their operations. It's Operation Zipper. My bad.
Zipper.
I should have written that down. But yeah, so that's that's what sets everything into motion with this movie, is that they prove themselves because of, ultimately their ambition, that they're capable of pulling something off over at NASA to help find out who this mole is. That's the idea.
Yeah. Specifically, Matt Johnson takes wild fucking swings and gets lucky.
Yeah.
A lot early on. Like he's the whatever the what I forget what the turn of phrase is. But he's kind of eyes to the sky, like fucking head in the clouds kind of guy.
Which that again, it's another one of those reality blending things, because that just sounds like Matt playing himself, because he, as I understand it, will go into pitches with coming up with stuff. He will just off the dome, kind of basically make it up as he goes along. That is his method. He is one of those people who can actually just on the fly improvise his life, which and his career as like a director and filmmaker, which is crazy to me.
I like with that kind of person, you always wonder like what parts of their process you don't see.
Yeah.
But I truly believe, just from like watching his stuff, that he really does wing most of it, because the thing is, like, he is amateurish. Like,
sure,
there is an amateurish quality to it that I find very earnest and very engaging, and not a detriment. But I saw multiple people when I was looking at Letterboxd reviews, they're like, oh, biggest problem with this movie is the directors cast themselves.
That's so like fucking wrong. The person who says that,
I agree.
I'm like, I know you agree. That's the thing, is like, I think that what he's doing, and honestly, the people that he tends to work with, like Owen Williams and Jared Robb, and all the people that he keeps in his crew.
And he pulls in Glenn Howerton and Jay Baruchel, who like notoriously they make up a lot of stuff on in Always Sunny on the Fly.
Yes,
not like plots and stuff, but a lot of dialogue. And then Jay Baruchel also comes from improv.
So like I do think that, like, if you're not into that style of filmmaking, it might come through for you. But like, why wouldn't you be? Is kind of my question.
I agree.
And here's the thing with the Glenn Howerton and Jay Baruchel thing. I was deep in like an interview K-hole and learning about Matt Johnson and his thoughts on making stuff. And what he was saying in these like interviews that had Jay Baruchel and Glenn Howerton in them is Glenn Howerton says that the reason he came onto the project was because he was delivered a fucking awesome script, which to me tells me that like Matt Johnson, he's like, look, I'm making, this product movie that's going to like put my name on the map in a significant way. I'm going to fucking nut up and do the script the right way, do the work. And that's just how you can feel that in his movies. And so instead of, improvising now here's the thing. I think that they did throw out a lot of pieces of the script in filming Blackberry, but what enticed Glenn Howerton and Jay Baruchel, I think, is because the script was like so nice. And then if they're, I've taken them at face value, Matt says that all three of them are now friends through filming the movie. So
cool.
Anyways, so basically, while this team and I should just say, watch this movie before you listen to us say this, because we're just going to spoil things that happen.
This is going to be entirely spoilers. So.
But so this movie is taking place in the 60s, right? This is during the space race with the Soviet Union in the Cold War. And so they end up getting kind of the go ahead to go to NASA. And they end up, camping out at NASA, which like one of the funniest scenes comes from when they're bugging people. Because Matt at one point like bugs James Webb to get information, just to, because again, they're trying to figure out, who the Soviet mole is inside NASA. But he uses the same technology to bug Owen Williams's phone at one point. And he's just listening as Owen, his partner in the CIA, is like quietly trying. He's like, no, I can't do this right now. Matt's right next to me. I'm at work. And his wife on the other side of the phone is just like, what? Do you want to know what I'm wearing?
Trying to initiate phone sex. Yeah.
It's so, and like, I don't really want to describe the jokes to people because but that scene is so funny because, as you said, Matt Johnson has like some of the best reactions ever put to film, and he's like reacting to it, and it's very like teenagers messing around in that scene.
Matt Johnson reacts to things like a cartoon dog, and I mean that as in the best way possible. He's so like every single it feels like you can see every single thought that ever goes through his brain through his eyes.
Yes.
And it makes for like watching him realize something, because like a lot of his works have this thing where he has to have ideas. He has to be a guy that is like always pushing some wild scheme on people, and his ability to like in the middle of a scene have this realization and like perk up and then just like take off and move on. It's really fun to watch. He's a very fun presence to really like spend some time watching.
Yeah. He which like Owen in The Dirties as well, a little bit more of like a straight man type to Matt's sort of manic energy. Which apparently, I didn't pick up on this, but apparently at one point in the early, like when they're like talking about the AV Club, they're showing Matt and Owen with titles on them that say director and video, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
And apparently that's like supposed to be a little nod to their actual like roles as like working. I'm just pointing that out because like, again, they really like it reminds me of pro wrestling, Niall, where the line between reality and what's just pure media fiction is blurred, and they go out of their way so much to blur it as much as they can.
I think that if you put Matt Johnson and Nathan Fielder in the same project, everyone like we will lose concept of what reality is. Like they have such different things they want to do with it.
Yeah.
But they both are able to like I don't know, they attack it from different sides, and it's really interesting to look at like the way the different ways that people blend, because like you said, pro wrestling is you have people who we talk about any wrestler, and you have to kind of talk about, are you talking about the actual person embodying the wrestler? Are you talking about the wrestler in current kayfabe storyline? Or are we talking about like fantasy booking?
Yeah.
Like there's layers of all these different things happening. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is such a great framework to make a movie about a conspiracy theory, right? Like,
yeah, like it may be the best way to tackle conspiracy theories as a concept.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic, like, I think the fact that it has, because like most conspiracy content, and this is actually why I'm excited that we decided to mix it up by watching something like this instead of another documentary, is like they're so deadly serious about the content, and everything is being pitched to you as being real a lot of the times. Here you're asked what exactly is real that you're seeing. And one of the things I can tell you, Niall, is when they do infiltrate NASA, in the movie. They are doing that in real life.
Yeah, I read that that they like lied to NASA that they were doing like a documentary.
Yeah, so what I heard,
they literally did the plot of the movie.
Yeah, well, apparently. So according to Matt, they literally did the plot of the movie exactly. According to Matt, there's this thing where NASA, there's like some law or something where NASA as an organization can't like advertise itself. It's like for whatever reason legally they're not allowed to do that. And Matt knew that, and he was like, that makes them more into people from media coming and filming the place and sort of doing the advertising for them in a sense, right?
Yeah.
So that like to as I understand it was sort of like an opening, you know, to do this movie. But then they do show up there and they say, we're filming a documentary about Apollo 11, which is exactly what they show them do in the movie. So not only is it the plot of the movie, like you said, what you see in the movie is how they managed to covertly film inside of NASA for this movie.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. That's so ridiculous. Like, that is wonderful. I truly love that. Oh God, they're just so good. So like, that also lends another like, I don't know if you want to call it amateurish, but like, I not to say that you're wrong, but like, one of the things that happens in this movie is when they are interacting with people from NASA, those are genuine, unfiltered interactions with people from NASA. And it leads to some funny stuff. But it's also like they're talking about Apollo 11 with these people. They're trying to like suss out without giving away what they're doing, how they might, because eventually they're working at, sorry, I skipped over this a little bit, but their covert operation at NASA to root out this mole, they get called up by their director who's like, we're done, this mission's over, come back. And Matt ignores the call for them to return, and kind of ropes Owen into it without him knowing that they were told to leave NASA. And what they end up doing is, while they're tapping James Webb, they intercept a phone call that basically is NASA saying, like, we're not going to be ready in time with the lunar lander. It's not possible for us to land on the moon in this time frame. It's going to take like X amount of time, and we don't have that time if we want to like win this space race against the Soviets.
Because the movie starts with the Kennedy thing of like, we're going to get to the moon by 1960, like him making that promise to the nation. So that is the like impetus of everything happening in the movie. Is there's this ticking clock of we have to get to the moon to meet JFK's promise, and we found out we're not going to be able to, so that's why they have to fake
Which
everything.
Like in real life, like that was like, that's a sticking point. Like people's ability to do space stuff in the space race was like a very real thing about like perception of a nation as like it relates to their power or whatever, which
national pride,
dick measuring basically.
It's
and like which it's like honestly, like when you think about the conspiracy itself that we faked the moon landing, it is really funny to me to think like, oh, there were like a bunch of people at like, you know, in NASA who like turned on the TV because they were like, John F. Kennedy's giving his "we're choosing to go to the moon by 1969" speech, and they're in NASA going like, he said what? You know, like that's like kind of what it feels like. And
it's why like this conspiracy theory almost makes more sense if flat Earth stuff is real, because it's like then they have to fake going to the moon no matter what, because you can't get there because of the firmament.
You can't get to the moon because of whatever bizarre reason that you believe that as a flat earther, because they have a bunch of random bullshit reasons to believe that.
True. Sometimes the moon is in the firmament.
Sometimes it's outside of it. Sometimes it's a projection. That's maybe my favorite one, is that we have to project the moon to convince people it's there, which is really absurd on its face. But
it kind of insists upon itself.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So because of all of that, they end up sticking around at NASA and intercepting this call. And they like tell their director, like, hey, I know you're pissed off at us for like lying to you about leaving, but we intercepted this call and we're not going to make it to the moon. But we're your only AV club people at the CIA.
Yeah.
We're going to fake the moon landing and pass it off so that we win the space race. And that's the whole movie. And the whole movie is like the lead. Well,
there's one other element that we haven't mentioned.
Sure.
As they're doing this stuff of filming the faking of the moon landing, they keep coming across the fact that there are these two men that keep appearing in the distance watching them and filming them.
So that comes up right after they get the okay to go ahead on this mission. And they end up going to this like 1960s pool party where Bowles, the agent Bowles, CIA agent Bowles is there to like keep an eye on them. He basically shows up at this pool party to be like, hey, I'm here to like work on this operation with you guys and make sure you don't fuck it up because I'm not impressed or whatever. He's being, you know, kind of bad cop about it.
He's the studio head.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets the budget and he makes sure the project gets done on time.
But he's a CIA agent who was sent by their director. And yeah, when they're at that pool party, they notice two men watching them. And yeah, that throughout the whole movie, there's these two men that they keep like catching, basically spying on them. But that is the whole, like the rest of the movie is about the making of the movie and these two men. And like, and again, you have to remember that it's, you know, it kind of is eating itself because the movie that you're watching is the film that's being shot by one of Matt Johnson, the AV Club's crew members.
Yes.
Who like, because that actually is a very important piece to the movie because as they're like working on this movie, faking the moon landing, the crew is filming them. That's what you're watching. And then Matt is taking footage of that footage and burying it secretly throughout the movie. I think he does it like twice. You see him do it like twice. So he's saving the footage as well because like things do kind of hit the fan at certain points. Matt kind of tries to shrug it off, but like things start to get very suspicious while they're filming.
Yeah, I like the push and pull between Matt and Owen, where Matt is just like, well, we got to keep filming that. We got to keep doing this. We got to get like just pushing us forever forward. While Owen's like, no, there's actually a conspiracy and people are dying. You need to like, you need to take a second and deal with this. Yeah. And he's just going, no, we're fine. We got to film this. Come suit up. Let's go.
Yeah. He's just like, you don't, he's kind of like, you know, you don't think they're actually fucking doing that. They're like, you know, it's oh God, it's really, the dynamic is really good. Like, I want to give.
Does Matt Johnson have that fluoride stare?
I'm sure he could replicate the fluoride stare better than just about anyone if you asked him to. I want to give some kudos to Owen Williams too. Like I realize I'm like sitting here talking about how great Matt Johnson is, but you know, his like creative partner Owen Williams is also fantastic in this movie in his role, because like there's the whole angle of like Owen Williams has kind of a good reason to be a bit more paranoid because he's about to be a father. He has a wife back home, which like I don't think at any point Matt is shown as having anything like that. He has no wife, he has no kids. Owen's got a wife and a kid on the way. So he like when weird shit starts popping up and the CIA starts acting spooky, he gets more paranoid than Matt, and I think with good reason. So yeah, but he does a great job. It's even though Matt estranges himself a little bit to Owen's wife because they do discover Owen does discover his wiretapping into hearing the phone sex being initiated. So I think at one point he like walks up next to her and he like kind of puts a hand on her shoulder and she's like, "Don't touch me."
Yep. When they're in the garage. Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to like Because there is one big fucking thing at the very end that I think is worth spending some time talking about. But do you want to go more kind of chronologically, or do you want to just kind of hit some highlights?
Well, I think we should just hit the highlights. I don't think we need to go chronologically here. I think I just wanted to set up what puts everything into motion in this movie. Because a good chunk of the movie is the shenanigans of filming a faked moon landing. They get a lot of that info from infiltrating NASA. They covertly sort of learn what they learn about would moon rocks look like this or would they look like that, but the other part of it is they at one point sneak onto the set, not the real set, because it couldn't be, but they sneak onto the set of Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I don't know if you know about this, Niall, but apparently the Kubrick estate is not cooperative. They do not release stuff. They basically, as I understand it, Matt was reaching out to them to try and get them to release some footage that they could use. And they were just not up for it, I guess, for whatever reason. They're very protective. And so all the shots that you see of Stanley Kubrick in the movie was like a CG trick.
I figured, because there's a couple sequences where he's kind of inserting himself into old footage there, how much that bugs you may vary. Doesn't bother me at all. When they're in mission control and he's obviously kind of green screened in it. I think it works fine.
It doesn't bother me one bit. It's very funny too, honestly.
But I was kind of surprised at how well the Kubrick stuff worked. It was kept very brief. It was one of those things where it didn't overstay its welcome, so you didn't look at it long enough to really start to take it apart. And I'm sure if I watched it again, I would notice more stuff about it. But it worked for me.
Yeah,
it was good.
I think it's a really well done sequence, and that's again, they take this is the tie-in, because depending on who you're talking to with the conspiracy theory stuff, if you're a believer in that the moon landing was hoaxed, then some people will tell you that it was Kubrick who did it, and they used 2001: A Space Odyssey, the set, to help shoot the moon landing being faked. That's one conspiracy. I sort of feel I don't know if you know this, because we haven't done a full-blown moon landing fake episode, have we? I don't think we have. It's come up many times.
Yeah, we've danced around it a lot. I think we might have done something early on, but we definitely did. It came up in the Room 237 episode, and it came up a couple other times. But I don't know.
Well,
we'd have to look.
As I understand it, the conspiracy came from a book in 1976 called "We Never Went to the Moon: America's $30 Billion Swindle," written by a guy named Bill Casing, who I don't really know anything about. But it's a 19. But I think that I want to say that the Kubrick Association didn't come until later, because there's that documentary, right?
Room 237.
And I don't know, I don't get the impression that this book was about that.
The Kubrick stuff predates the documentary for sure.
Well, yeah.
But it's not it. I don't know. I don't know what the original moon landing faked theory is.
I don't really either. I know that it's, a lot of the key elements are there, but I don't think the Kubrick thing is there. I think that comes later. Maybe it's because I think did we watch the documentary about the moon landing being faked for the show? Maybe with the Kubrick thing,
the Room 237.
Did we watch that? Okay,
yeah.
so we watched.
It was one of the early something or others. I forget what we classified that as, because he's another one that messes with what a documentary is, and we've watched multiple of his movies. I just don't remember how we classified the first one. I think it was a documentary.
Yeah, well,
anyway,
it's I don't know where the Kubrick thing comes in exactly, so that might be worth That might be worth an
Yeah, we
episode,
should
honestly.
do a moon landing thing. Okay.
Because now it's like just a part of the story, right? Like it's now people will reference Kubrick almost inevitably with the moon landing stuff.
Yeah, the theory isn't we faked the moon landing; it's that Kubrick shot the fake moon landing.
Yeah.
Like it's almost become like part of the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Core.
And it's sometimes like Kubrick did it under duress. Sometimes he did it for an unbelievable amount of money. It's like it's like people even tie in Kubrick's attachments to the sort of shadowy groups that he worked with for the moon landing to Eyes Wide Shut being like inspired by that, which is like a fucking wild thing. Because like then you talk about like those people then talk about like, well, he died like before that movie premiered or whatever, and it's because they killed him with a heart attack gun or whatever. It's like, oh, he finally got he finished shooting this movie with Tom fucking Cruise from Scientology about the conspiracy shadowy underworld. But no, they waited until the movie premiered to kill him, but that's a whole other thing. But he's like just attached, and yeah, he makes a brief appearance here where they Matt gets to figure out how to, I forget the name of the tactic, but he learns like a filmmaking tactic to fake the background of the moon in the movie.
Yeah, he finds out the way they did the backgrounds in the opening in 2001, and yeah, it's I really like that thing where he calls from London, where he just like snuck in to talk to Kubrick under filming a documentary for NASA, because he had NASA scientists working on 2001. Like it's the level of like things he does to justify what the characters do in this movie is really fun to me.
Yeah.
But also the fucking the call home where he calls Owen and he just like immediately without even saying hello is like, it's called so and so plate photography.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, why are you calling me? Like the excitedness, and then the way he deflates when Owen isn't immediately as excited and like giddy as he is so funny to me.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, that's the dynamic throughout the whole movie, right? Is like,
yeah,
he is just like, he's very childlike in his like wonder at the things that he's getting to do, and Owen is a bit more of the adult in the situation. And yeah, that's like the dynamic throughout the whole movie, including when it comes to the CIA maybe trying to kill them.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff happens, but to kind of get to the meat of it, they end up with this guy Bowles, this Agent Bowles. They're like filming one day, and somebody, Owen is like, hey, there's like guys sitting in a car outside the studio that we've rented to fake the moon landing, and they've just been watching us. And when they run out, those people take off as fast as they can. Like one runs out of the building and into the car as they're escaping, and Bowles pulls a gun on them and shoots at them. And long story short, there's this tease of these two men, and at one point it's like revealed that like Bowles is like, oh yeah, the director told me that Webb was the mole. Or no, not Webb.
No, not Webb. It was the Antonin something.
Yeah, the Soviet
guy.
The KGB agent, quote unquote, that they discovered.
And Owen sees that the guy they fingered as the mole looks nothing like either of the people that's been tailing them, and so he's of course very suspicious.
And on top of that, Owen finds a newspaper about a NASA scientist being like dying, and that leads him to cross-reference the phone call with James Webb. That's what I was thinking of. The phone call with James Webb about the them not being able to land on the moon. And so Owen's like, there's no way because like the KGB agent is supposedly the other guy on the other end of the phone talking to James Webb. And they're both kind of like, well, there's no way the KGB has known for a year that we couldn't do this. Like, why, it would completely fuck up all of our plans here. And they just sat on this idea. So maybe this guy who was killed and was claimed to be the mole is not the mole. Basically.
Yeah.
I don't know if I
It's a
explained
big
that very
cover
well.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an elaborate cover up to frame this guy as the mole and also throw these guys off the track. And yeah, it's a big conspiracy.
Yeah.
Like they're in an actual conspiracy in the movie here while they're faking kind of being the font of another one for years to come. I do the thing that I brought up earlier that I think like is worth talking about for a while. This movie has a surprisingly really, really fucking good chase scene at the end.
It does.
Like,
it does.
It has a borderline, like fully improvised chase sequence that fucking rules.
Yeah.
And it is like, it's basically all about those two guys tailing them as he was trying to dig up the footage as we're getting into the climax of the movie. And it leads to the cameraman and Matt Johnson just being chased by this other car through the woods, this like rickety trail in the woods. And he has to like drive backwards while like looking through everything. Like it's just I was not expecting a chase sequence like this in this movie.
No, and here's the thing. Again, I think I think they did a lot of the car stuff in a somewhat dangerous way, as I understand
it. Yeah, they didn't get permits.
They did not get any permits or anything. They did a lot of their own stunts in a way. And honestly, like I think that they also can like do some clever editing, but it does look really fucked up. It looks like a pretty gnarly car chase. I mean, during the car chase, these like shadowy agents are like firing guns through their window and stuff. And the cameraman's in the back filming the whole thing. And and they eventually like reach a point where like they're able to sort of like reverse very abruptly and spin out, and they see the like people in the other car like basically drive off the road and into a tree. And it looks gnarly. It looks, I mean, we can say they're amateurish all we want, but I think that they maybe fucked up a car.
Oh, that's the thing. Like the amateurish thing is entirely in the thing. It is entirely a style thing.
Yeah.
It's choices that he's making to not worry about the cleanliness of these certain things. And it's totally artistic style. And I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, they execute a pretty cool fucking chase, and I think they do fuck up a car. I do like, I like the kind of nebulousness of the ending.
Yeah.
Also, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we want to get to that immediately, but it's like the way that this confronts what the truth of anything that it presents in front of you is like, it almost treats everything like kind of a weird secondhand story or a myth in a way that I find it's interesting.
I love that you said that, because, okay, I'm going to tell you something that I was kind of saving till we got to this point.
Okay.
Listening to him talk about the things that like inspire him to make movies. I was recently listening to him talk about this. He was basically saying that one of the big driving forces for him is that I can't remember who he's referencing, but he was like, I heard another like filmmaker say this, actually, he was talking about Bjork.
Okay.
Bjork said something about like something to the effect of like art. What we do with art is that we like take myths from our past and like revitalize them in the present with our like art, basically. And so Matt is like, I think that the best stuff is when you're sort of reinvoking a myth with your work, but in this like, you know, in this contemporary fashion, right? And so what he has described, the thing that he has like returned to over and over again, that a myth that like the broad beats of it inspire his work, he straight up says it's the myth of Gilgamesh.
Oh.
And he says, if you look at my stuff, if you look at BlackBerry, you look at like all these things that I've made, it's a man who it's like somebody who leaves something behind. And then I don't know much about Gilgamesh, I'm going to be so real with you, but this is how he explained it. He's like, it's like about this like power, this person who has some sort of like power, who is like leaving something behind. And then they only are able to like sort of like mentally sort of like transcend their situation when they lose everything and return to that thing that they had like left behind originally. So I think for Gilgamesh, it's like the city that he rules or something. Gotcha. I don't know much about Gilgamesh, but like it's something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing heavily here, but that was like what he was saying is like, if you watch my stuff, it's all about the myth of Gilgamesh. Somebody, and I think for this movie, again, spoilers, I think that thing for this movie is Matt's character losing sight of Owen.
Yeah.
And then returning to that at the very end. So I just wanted to throw that out there because like I think that is the sort of arc here and the bookend to everything. Yeah, at the very end here, what you're talking about is like let's set up what the very ending looks like here. Because there's like some moments where Matt is like poring over footage of him and Owen. And basically he's poring over the footage of the documentary that you're watching.
Yes.
The fake documentary you're watching. The pseudo fake documentary you're watching. And he is cutting it together, and at a point he stops and like pauses on a frame of Owen and looks at him, because at the end of the movie, there's a whole, like we talk about the chase and the shootout and everything. That's because the CIA does seem to be trying to tie up loose ends. And at one point, Matt like checks up on Owen because Owen like tipped him off that the weird agents were outside his house. Matt goes back to Owen's place, checks up on him, and finds that he's been hanged. It made to look like a suicide, obviously.
Yeah, they faked his
suicide. Yeah. And it's pretty fucked up. And yeah, so this leads to Matt like putting together the documentary, and which he basically is holding as collateral to threaten the director, who he has pretty good reason to believe put out these hits on people, to try and prevent the moon landing fake to get out and to just tie up loose ends. That's what happens at the very end of this movie. But what literally happens at the very end of the movie? How does it play out at the very end there, Niall?
So he kind of does in my brain, it's the Jason Bourne thing, but I don't know if that's like the best way to call it, where he sets up kind of like a little sting operation on a person where he's watching them, and he calls them from where could be anywhere in the world, and he's actually like 10 feet away from them watching them, and sets up the blackmail you talked about. But then after that, he kind of goes out into the streets, and it's the actual moon landing is being broadcast on all the TVs. People are all out on the streets watching these TVs, sharing this communal experience of this massive achievement in American history and this phenomenal thing. And he is alone by himself on the streets, knowing that all of this is fake, while everyone is rejoicing around him and his friend is dead.
Yeah. Yeah. And what happens is, at the very last moment, the thing to drive it home even more that like reality is fucked up when you're watching this, at the very end, it pans over as he's watching all this, and he's watching the moon landing footage that he made be aired. It pans over to his face, and he has this sort of shocked look on his face, and then he has a look of like mild determination, and the last moment of the movie is him turning his eyes to look into the camera before they needle drop Fortunate Son
in a kind of Kubrickian stare. there's like, it's, I don't know if that's intentional or not, or if that's just like whatever, but there was like a vibe that it gave off. Anyway.
Kubrick's stare gives off this like utter defeat and devoid of humanity. Here, I feel like it's more like the face that he makes when he comes up with a new plan.
Yeah, true.
Like throughout the movie, there's multiple times where he does this exact thing where he turns to the camera at a moment and realizes something. And that realization leads him to the next step in his plan. So this is I think also his Gilgamesh thing, where it's like he lost this thing, he like left his thing behind, he returns to it at the very end and can now sort of like ascend to the next step because he realizes what he lost basically, and he's now and I think the whole idea there is at the very end he has a plan to keep moving forward, whatever that is, even though he is in this like really fucked up situation.
He just blackmailed a CIA operative to try to get the kill team that's trying to take him out off his back. Like he's in a pretty fucked up situation.
And he even wants to know who is being targeted by the team, presumably so that he can prevent them from being murdered by the CIA. So that's a lot happens. We're really glossing over this movie. In like we're I say it, like I said, you should just go watch it. But it's fucking, this movie's awesome.
It's really good.
Really
like
good.
I think it's one of those things that I can safely say isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, but it really works for me.
Same.
This movie's so fucking fun. It's like it just has like the right sense of humor and the right subject matter and the right execution, that it just all works, and I love it.
Yeah, it's there's something incredible to me about the balance that is struck almost naturally by the process that these guys go through to make films and to make TV. But like there's a balance between the seriousness and the comedy. It's not always like laugh out loud funny. There's a lot of like good funny moments, and then there's a couple laugh out loud funny moments, and then it's like, I don't know, I hadn't seen this, but it's the same as the Dirties. Like it's funny, it's endearing, and then suddenly it's fucked up. And it swerves to
the pacing of it is interesting, because like it isn't an entirely steady crawl, like from comedy to dark. Like the things on it all reveals itself very, and like it's almost like you're back and forth between the point of view of Matt and Owen, and then once Owen gets out of the movie, you're just with Matt for a while, and then oh no, Owen's gone, and then he's actually fucking gone, and it goes like it like crashes the entire vibe. Like I don't know, it's basically what I'm saying is Matt Johnson is an effective storyteller, and it showcases that in this movie to me.
Yeah, and it's like it's the thing is though, like when you watch all of his stuff, you really do realize he is telling the same kind of story over and over, of like the scheme that wraps all the way back around to return to where you came from, basically, is so, but it's like and I don't mean that in like a, like, I'm not saying it's like, I'm saying that in a good way. He's very, very good at this particular beat of storytelling. And I think it's very effective in this movie. And I don't know, as far as like the documentary elements of it, like we haven't even touched on like all the weird shit the people at NASA say. He gets them to say, like, because they're convinced this is just like some actual students filming a documentary about Apollo 11, they say really bizarre. I'm trying to remember what that guy that they first meet with says, because it's like, it's very like, why would you say this? And then I remember, well, it's because you don't think that they're filming a movie, like,
yeah. I'm trying to remember because
it's like, oh, he didn't wash his hands, don't eat the meatballs or whatever.
He makes like some kind of like weird off-color joke.
He tells like a story or something about I don't. It's so weird. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm so fascinated by this approach of blending these people, like they're genuine. I feel like if you just saw footage of a NASA person out of context saying this like weird story about meatballs, it's like, okay, whatever. But in the context of the narrative, it's funny.
Yeah, there's a sense of discovery in the scenes where he's interacting with real people, because he's like trying to get them to go in the direction he wants by his questions, but he's not controlling how they respond to him. So he's actually having to, in real time, tailor what he's doing to try to get what he needs out of it. And sometimes people just really surprise you.
Yeah. And that's like also, again, with Nirvana, the band, the show, that's like a significant amount of the comedy comes from people just being people because they have no idea that they are now part of this story that's being recorded.
Yeah.
And they have to react to it. I don't know. It's so good. If anything that we described here sounds cool to you and you haven't watched any of this stuff, check it out. Now, I will say it is problematic trying to watch Nirvana, the band, the show, because it doesn't exist anymore.
It's gotten scrubbed from most places I've seen.
You can find somebody who has uploaded the entirety of season 2 on YouTube, which I don't know if that's legal. But that's sort of par for the course here, legality, because like, God, they shoot some stuff that I don't know if it was legal in this movie.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
But Blackberry's on Hulu. I have no idea where The Dirties is right now. It was on Shudder, but I don't think it is anymore. So, hey, check it out. I highly recommend the work of Matt Johnson, and I'm very excited because the next thing that he's planning on doing is like Jesus, I almost said Blueberry. Blackberry is what's letting him do Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. They were filming in New Orleans for that movie, by the way. So something wild is going on in that movie. And yeah, I can't. Nirvana, the band, the show is also like, on top of everything we described, so specifically my sense of humor as well. So like, again, but yeah, they used to be on Viceland, right? And Viceland I don't think exists anymore. And there's some weird legal stuff.
It's a weird subsidiary of Vice that mainly broadcasts in Canada or whatever the fuck. I
think you can purchase the series on Amazon if you want to get legal channels to find the show. I think you can get season 1 on Amazon. I think.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but yeah, Operation Avalanche, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like I've praised it plenty. What are the thoughts you have?
I like how they look at, because the thing that this tackles in a way that I and why I like how this movie handles conspiracy theories is like, conspiracy theories do sometimes feel like at every step of the way, you're like, how was this the thing that then happened?
How did we get here?
And by placing two people who in the movie are described as people who are supposed to look like they have no idea what's going on, it kind of shows like the weird kind of Rube Goldberg mechanics that could lead to this kind of tale, Like it's part of that kind of like myth feelingness of it that also is where a lot of these conspiracy theories kind of tread into, where things don't feel fully natural, but it's I don't know. I like the way that this tries to tackle, like, how could we make this make any sense and have our characters make these decisions, and they have to be placed in such ridiculous situations for them to make those specific decisions. And it all is like I don't know. They worked backwards how to make a conspiracy theory in all of its weirdness be a logical, if, you know, head in the clouds ish scheme by a careerist, not a careerist, but like an ambitious CIA agent.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a very good idea.
Yeah, and like, you know, again, to the conspiracy theory angle, it's like to have a movie about a character who lives somewhere between reality and fiction, you know, and then to also simultaneously have the movie like straddle that line and blur everything. It's you know, it's perfect for conspiracy. I really hope that like maybe he returns to a conspiracy in the future.
Like, or like, what does his Bigfoot movie look like? You know, like, you start to just wonder these kinds of things when you're watching this movie.
Yeah, it's like, you know, for a lot of conspiracy theory, for a lot of the Fortean in general too, it's like you have to leave reality at a certain point. You have to accept that reality is sort of blurred in that world. And yeah, just to have your movie that way, it lends to the feeling. It also, I think, in a way, sort of lends to the paranoia you should also end up feeling for like living in conspiracy world. It's like, even though like Matt as a character is often like not really that paranoid until suddenly it's like in his face. But the movie gives off a paranoia like after the two mysterious men start showing up that like I think just because of the nature of reality blurring here, it makes it palpable, I guess.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Yeah, I don't. This is always
really good fucking movie. Go watch it. It's on fucking YouTube.
This is a pretty wild decision to talk about this for the podcast, but like I think I sent it to you and I was like, "Do you want to talk about this?" Because I am obsessed and I think it would be very interesting. And we were just like, "Why not put it on the main feed? Fuck it. Let everybody hear our weird documentary movie opinions about this for sure."
Yeah, and if you want to hear us talk more about movies, go check out our Patreon. Do you want, on that note, do you want to do business?
I think I've said all I need to say. Check out Matt Johnson and his movies.
Yeah. So if you want to follow us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
And you can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
We're also on all your favorite podcatchers. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're probably there.
You can also follow us on twitch.tv/itgetsweird. I'm planning on doing a stream when the Elden Ring DLC comes out, hopefully with Colin at some point. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And then itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, that's right. You can email us. It's 2024. We're check out our email. Send us something cool.
Yeah.
Tell us your feelings on Operation Avalanche if you end up watching it. Tell us your thoughts on Bigfoot. We would love to hear. Honestly, we've gotten a lot of ghost related stuff and a lot of alien related stuff. Let's get some Bigfoot believers in the email,
or like any cryptid encounters. Fucking anyone ever met a cryptid?
Yeah, I would love to hear that. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, you get It Gets Weird TV, where right now we are discussing the X-Files Season 2. And you can donate at the $2 tier to hear that. At the $5 tier, we have another bonus show that comes out in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. So at the $5 tier, you're getting bonus content every single week. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. And you get access to the Discord where we're hanging out, chatting with our listeners. So come check out patreon.com/itgetsweird. We do have a $1 tier that's just a tip. You don't get anything out of it. You're just saying, hey, thanks for doing what you do. Here's $1. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird TV. Or It Gets Weird Podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Or, I mean, you can get It Gets Weird TV on the Patreon.
You could tell them about the Patreon show, sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening. This has been It Gets Weird, a little bit of a fuck your documentary type episode. And I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.
Peace.